Where does she live? Rue Tronchet. No. Do you want to make love to her? One never knows. And Marguerite? I should hardly tell you the truth if I said I think no more about her, but I am one of those with whom everything depends on the way in which one breaks with them. Now Marguerite ended with me so lightly that I realize I was a great fool to have been as much in love with her as I was, for I was really very much in love with that girl. You can imagine the way in which I said that. The sweat broke out on my forehead. She was very fond of you, you know, and she still is. The proof is, that after meeting you today, she came straight to tell me about it. When she got here, she was all of a tremble. I thought she was going to faint. Well, what did she say? She said, he is sure to come here, and she begged me to ask you to forgive her. I have forgiven her, you may tell her. She was a good girl, but, after all, like the others, and I ought to have expected what happened. I am even grateful to her, for I see now what would have happened if I had lived with her altogether. It was ridiculous. She will be very glad to find that you take it so well. It was quite time she left you, my dear fellow. The rascal of an agent, to whom she had offered to sell her furniture, went around to her creditors to find out how much she owed. They took fright, and in 2 days she would have been sold up. And now it is all paid? More or less. And who has supplied the money? The Comte d'N. Ah, my dear friend, there are men made on purpose for such occasions. To cut a long story short, he gave her 20,000 francs, but he has had his way at last. He knows quite well that Marguerite is not in love with him, but he is very nice with her all the same. As you have seen, he has repurchased her horses, he has taken her jewels out of pawn, and he gives her as much money as the Duke used to give her. If she likes to live quietly, he will stay with her a long time. And what is she doing? Is she living in Paris altogether? She would never go back to Bougival after you went. I had to go myself and see after all her things, and yours too. I made a package of them, and you can send here for them. You will find everything, except a little case with your initials. Marguerite wanted to keep it. If you really want it, I will ask her for it. Let her keep it, I stammered, for I felt the tears rise from my heart to my eyes at the recollection of the village where I had been so happy, and at the thought that Marguerite cared to keep something which had belonged to me and would recall me to her. If she had entered at that moment, my thoughts of vengeance would have disappeared, and I should have fallen at her feet. For the rest, continued Prudence, I never saw her as she is now. She hardly takes any sleep. She goes to all the balls. She goes to suppers. She even drinks. The other day, after a supper, she had to stay in bed for a week, and when the doctor let her get up, she began again at the risk of her life. Shall you go and see her? What is the good? I came to see you because you have always been charming to me, and I knew you before I even knew Marguerite. I owe it to you that I have been her lover, and also, don't I, that I am her lover no longer. Well, I did all I could to get her away from you, and I believe you will be thankful to me later on. I owe you a double gratitude, I added, rising, for I was disgusted with the woman, seeing her take every word I said to her as if it were serious. You are going? Yes. I had learned enough. When shall I be seeing you? Soon. Good-bye. Good-bye. Prudence saw me to the door, and I went back to my own rooms with tears of rage in my eyes and a desire for vengeance in my heart. So Marguerite was no different from the others. So the steadfast love that she had had for me could not resist the desire of returning to her former life and the need of having a carriage and plunging into dissipation. So I said to myself, as I lay awake at night, though if I had reflected as calmly as I professed to, I should have seen in this new and turbulent life of Marguerite the attempt to silence a constant thought, a ceaseless memory. However, evil passion had the upper hand, and I only sought for some means of avenging myself on the poor creature. Oh, how petty and vile is man when he is wounded in one of his narrow passions! This Olympe, whom I had seen, was, if not a friend of Marguerite, at all events the woman with whom she was most often seen since her return to Paris. She was going to give a ball, and as I took it for granted that Marguerite would be there, I tried to get an invitation, and succeeded. When, full of my sorrowful emotions, I arrived at the ball, it was already very animated. They were dancing, shouting even, and in one of the quadrilles I perceived Marguerite dancing with the Comte de N., who seemed proud of showing her off, as if he said to everybody, "This woman is mine." I leaned against the mantelpiece just opposite Marguerite, and watched her dancing. Her face changed the moment she caught sight of me. I saluted her casually with a glance of the eyes and a wave of the hand. When I reflected that after the ball she would go home, not with me but with that rich fool, when I thought of what would follow their return, the blood rose to my face, and I felt the need of doing something to trouble their relations. After the contredanse I went up to the mistress of the house, who displayed for the benefit of her guests a dazzling bosom and magnificent shoulders. She was beautiful, and, from the point of view of figure, more beautiful than Marguerite. I realized this fact still more clearly from certain glances which Marguerite bestowed upon her while I was talking with her. The man who was the lover of such a woman might well be as proud as Monsieur de N., and she was beautiful enough to inspire a passion not less great than that which Marguerite had inspired in me. At that moment she had no lover. It would not be difficult to become so. It depended only on showing enough money to attract her attention. I made up my mind. That woman should be my mistress. I began by dancing with her. Half an hour afterward, Marguerite, pale as death, put on her pelisse and left the ball. Chapter 24